Okay, so today we're going to be talking about this. What do you do when you have too many peaches on your tree? That's coming up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here today, third week of April. Just a beautiful, beautiful, very warm day. So we'll probably be in the low to mid 90s today. So we're definitely starting to heat up. And one of the things that happens when we heat up is we start talking about peaches. So that's actually what we're going to be talking about today. And you're actually going to recognize this tree behind me. In fact, I'll link the video here of the last time I was standing right here talking about this tree. And that was a few months back. And actually what we did is we showed you one of the ways that we help to increase chill hours on our trees with actually taking off all the leaves. So you actually watched Lori and I both take all the leaves off of this tree, and you can see from what's behind me, it has come back very, very nicely. So peaches, talk a little bit about peaches. Peaches are actually, it's the first variety that we have here on the farm that actually produces fruit in the family of stone fruits. So of all of our stone fruits, peaches are the earliest variety. We have, I think it's 5 different varieties of peaches here, and a nectarine, which is actually just a fuzzless peach. But we have 5 peach varieties. 2 of them we've had on the property now for 3 years. This tree behind me is one of them. This is the Desert Gold Peach. So this particular variety is really one that Lori and I like to use for smoothies. It's got a very, very dark red flesh. Once we start actually harvesting off of this tree, we'll probably share that with you guys so you can see how those look. But it's usually a very abundant producer. The only thing that we ran into this year that most people actually have a problem with as far as peaches are concerned, and we had it this year as well, is late frosts. It is the first tree to come to break bud and flower, and essentially what we had this year was a late frost. That's actually the first time since we've been out here in Whitman that we had a real good, strong, almost hard frost actually here, right at the end of February, right as this thing was really starting to flower out really well and start to set fruit. So it definitely affected our harvest. So we've got a fraction of the fruit that we typically have on this tree. So it is a lot less to come back through and thin, which is what we're going to be doing today. We also had 2 really strong windstorms come through in the last couple weeks that actually went ahead and shed a bunch more fruit. So we probably shed about half the fruit that were on the tree were shed naturally through the windstorm. So let's talk a little bit about thinning. So I do have another video I'll link here where we showed you how we thin our apple trees. Obviously the peaches are a little bit different as far as what you do to thin, which is why we wanted to share that with you today. So again, why do you thin? So really what we do is we're looking for nice size quality fruit. So when you thin, you increase the size of the fruit and also the quality of the fruit. And that's really what we want. You know, we want a really good tasting piece of fruit when we actually go to harvest, which is why we're going to be thinning. So now let's talk a little bit about how do you decide how much you're going to thin. So for us, we found out that the best way for us to determine that, number one, when the tree is only a year old, so once you've been in the ground for a year, or at least for that first year, we don't actually let the trees fruit at all. So a lot of times you're buying, bare root grafted varieties or even potted grafted varieties that may be a year or 2 old when you get them, and they will try to fruit that first year. A lot of trees will. However, we won't let them do it. And the main reason why, we want that tree to really establish its root base and make sure we have a nice healthy tree that's going to last and produce for a long period of time. So for that first year, we actually thin 100%. We don't let the tree fruit at all. Once we get into the second year, so its second full year in the ground, we will let it fruit, really kind of determine how much fruit we'll allow to remain on the tree based on how big the tree is. That canopy gives you a good idea of your root mass underneath. So this tree, the canopy is probably, I'm going to say a good 8, maybe 9 feet across, which means my roots are actually out here a good 4 to 5 feet from the tree trunk itself. And that goes around completely. So it actually has a lot of root establishment. So at this point, at 3 years, we can definitely let it maintain more fruit. Or retain more fruit, which is what we're going to be looking at today. So because we had that late frost and we already had a windstorm come through here, there's not a lot of thinning that I still need to do, but I'm going to have Lori slide forward so she can watch me thin. So got a couple branches here that have some extra fruit on them. So hopefully you guys will be able to make this out okay. You'll notice I don't have clippers today like I did in the apple thinning video because it's just not necessary with peaches. They come off with just your fingers. And this is about the right size. So about the size of a quarter in diameter, maybe I don't know, 50-cent piece, if those are still around. 50-cent piece is probably a little bigger than this, but probably about the size of a quarter in diameter is when we really go to do our thinning, because then we know we have a really good, strong fruit set with these particular fruits. So really what I try to do is I try to get myself about 4 to 6 inches between each piece of fruit on any given side of the branch. So of course we've got a tree now that's 3 years old. It's a nice sized tree. It can hold a lot of fruit, but I really look also at the branch itself. So this branch is pretty strong. So this is 1 year growth. So this is actually grown out last year, but it's a pretty strong branch. It's pretty vertical. So it's going to be able to hold a good amount of weight. But I don't want to have more than about 4 to 6 inches between fruit. So what I'm going to do, a lot of you probably are going to cringe when it happens, is I'm going to thin this out. So again, about 4 inches, that's about the size between my pinky and my thumb. So I've got these two pieces of fruit are about that distance apart. So this one here and this one here both come off. So that's thinned, and that's actually the only two pieces of fruit that are on that branch, so I can leave that alone. Right behind it, I've got another branch, very similar. It's a little more vertical, and it's got a lot more fruit. So this one's got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of fruit on there, all in the same spot. So definitely need to thin this out quite a bit. Again, same thing. I'm going to take my thumb and my pinky. I've got 2 pieces of fruit right there that are about that same distance apart. But also, I've got a piece of fruit on the back that looks really, really nice. So I've got 2 small pieces of fruit here that I'm going to go ahead and pull. And I'm actually going to leave these 3. So this one's a little closer together than I would normally do it, but the branch is definitely sturdy enough to support these 3 pieces of fruit. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone. So as I continue, I've got 2 pieces of fruit here, both they're basically right next to one another. This piece of fruit here looks like it's actually holding onto the tree a little stronger. This one here is a little bit smaller, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Another branch right here, those are actually already spaced apart. Those are not a problem. So I'm not going to touch those at all. I've got another branch back here. I've got 3 pieces of fruit all together. So I'm going to take out the middle one, leave those 2 pieces right there. So pretty simple, really. And what we do is we go around the whole tree and do the exact same thing as we go from branch to branch. And that's really about it. We'll continue this, finish this up. I've got one more peach tree to do today as well. And that's pretty much it for our peach thinning this season, because we only have these 2 trees so far in production. So just want to thank you guys for joining us today. As always, just want to encourage you guys to subscribe if you haven't already. So if you hit that subscribe button, you can join us as we go along this journey. And we've got a lot of videos coming up on fruit trees as we go into the summer and even into the fall months. So there's a lot of content that we'll have coming up. And hey, you know what? If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. We'd love to see you guys and interact with you guys in the comment section. Suggestions, we'll take them. You know, we're pretty confident as far as how we do our trees around here. But you know what? If you got some suggestions for us, we will definitely take them. So please leave those below as well. So just want to thank you again for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you.